Captain Junho stared at the navigation screen and scratched his head. The numbers made no sense. According to their instruments, they should be somewhere near the Centauri trade routes. Instead, space looked completely different here. Minji, are you seeing this? He called to his chief engineer. Minji looked up from her repair work and walked over to the captain's chair. She had grease on her hands and a cheerful smile on her face. Oh, wow. We really took a wrong turn somewhere, didn't we? The exploration ship Resilient Dawn was small compared to military vessels. It carried only 12 crew members, and most of them were scientists. They had been mapping new star systems for the past 6 months. It was supposed to be a boring job. How did we even get here? Asked Hyeri from the communications station. She was trying to pick up any signals from nearby systems. Taewon, their weapons specialist, laughed from his corner. Remember that weird gravity thing we flew through yesterday? I bet that messed up our navigation. The gravitational anomaly, Dongyun said, looking up from his medical reports. It was quite fascinating, actually. The readings were unlike anything in our databases. Junho nodded. As captain, he should probably be worried about being lost in space. But his crew seemed calm, so he stayed calm too. Well, let's figure out where we are and head home. Maybe we discovered something new. That was when the alarm started screaming. Captain? Hyeri's voice got higher. We have company, big company. On the main screen, massive ships appeared from nowhere. They were dark and covered in spikes. Each one was 10 times larger than the Resilient Dawn. The ships looked like they were built for war. Those are not human ships, Taewon said. He sounded excited instead of scared. No kidding, Minji said. But look at those engines. The design is amazing. More ships kept appearing. Soon, 30 enormous warships surrounded the tiny human vessel. The humans could see weapon ports opening on the alien ships. This is probably bad, Junho said calmly. Hyeri, are they trying to talk to us? Yes, sir, they're sending a message. It's in a language I don't recognize, but the computer is working on it. The translation came through the speakers a moment later. The voice was deep and scary. Unknown vessel, you have entered forbidden territory. You will surrender immediately or be destroyed. Junho looked around at his crew. They all looked back at him with curious faces. Nobody seemed afraid. Well, Junho said, this is new. Anyone got snacks for our guests? Minji giggled. I have some cookies in the kitchen. Should we surrender? Asked Dongyun. It seems like the polite thing to do. I vote yes, said Hyeri. I want to meet them. This is the first alien contact in human history. Taewon was studying the weapon systems on the alien ships. Look at those energy cannons. The technology must be centuries ahead of ours. Junho pressed the communication button. Hello there. This is Captain Junho of the human ship Resilient Dawn. We seem to be lost. We didn't mean to intrude. We surrender, I guess. There was a long silence from the alien ships. Finally, the scary voice came back. You surrender? Sure, Junho said. You asked nicely. Well, not really nicely, but you asked. We're not looking for trouble. Another long pause. You are not afraid? Minji leaned over to the microphone. Should we be? You seem upset that we're here. We can leave if you want. You cannot leave. You have seen forbidden territory. You must be processed. Processed? Dongyun asked. That sounds medical. I'm a doctor. Is someone sick? Hyeri was working on her translation programs. I'm picking up more of their language. They call themselves the Vorthak Empire. They seem to be very serious about territory. Empire? Taewon said. Cool. Are they, like space Romans? The alien voice seemed confused now. You will be brought aboard our command vessel. Do not resist. Okay, Junho said cheerfully. Should we bring anything? Gifts, maybe? I have those cookies, Minji offered. A tractor beam locked onto their ship and started pulling them toward the largest alien vessel. The humans pressed their faces to the windows to get a better look. The hull design is incredible, Minji said. It's both functional and intimidating. Look at those landing bays, Taewon added. They could fit 100 ships our size in there. The Resilient Dawn was pulled into a massive hangar. Through the windows, They could see hundreds of alien soldiers waiting for them. The soldiers were tall and covered in armor. They carried weapons that glowed with energy. They're very organized, Dongyun observed. Military precision. And they're really tall, Hyeri added. I hope they have adjustable furniture. A voice came over their speakers again. Exit your vessel slowly. Keep your hands visible. Any aggressive movement will result in immediate termination. Termination? Junho asked. That's a strong word. Are we in that much trouble? The crew gathered at the airlock. Nobody looked nervous. They were all curious about meeting aliens for the first time. Remember, Junho said, we're representing all of humanity. Let's make a good impression. Should we shake hands? Asked Dongyun. Do they have hands? We'll find out, said Minji. The airlock opened and the humans walked out into the alien hangar. The Vorthak soldiers were indeed very tall. They had 4 arms and faces that looked like angry lizards. Their weapons were pointed at the humans. The humans looked around with wide eyes like tourists in a museum. Wow, Junho said loudly. This place is amazing. The Vorthak soldiers looked at each other, confused. A large Vorthak with more decorations on his armor stepped forward. He spoke in heavily accented English. I am Commander Thexfor. You are prisoners of the Vorthak Empire. Nice to meet you, Commander, Junho said with a big smile. I'm Captain Junho. These are my friends. Sorry about the whole trespassing thing. Commander. Thexfor stared at the humans. In his 300 years of military service, he had never seen prisoners act like this. Usually, captured beings were either terrified or angry. These humans seemed happy. You will be interrogated, the commander said. You will tell us everything about your species and your technology. Sure, said Hyeri. We love talking about ourselves. Do you want to know about human culture too? It's pretty interesting. I have medical training, Dongyun offered. If anyone needs a checkup, just let me know. Commander Thexvor's 4 eyes blinked slowly. Something was very wrong with these creatures, or very right. He was not sure which. The humans were marched through the corridors of the massive Vorthak warship. Their guards towered over them, carrying weapons that hummed with dangerous energy. But instead of looking scared, the humans kept pointing at things and making comments. The lighting system is really efficient, Minji said, looking up at the ceiling. How did they get such even distribution? The architecture is fascinating, Dongyun added. Very functional, but there's an artistic element too. Commander Thexfor walked behind them, growing more confused with each step. Prisoners were supposed to be silent and terrified. These humans acted like they were on a tour. They entered a large room filled with intimidating equipment. Dark metal walls were covered with screens and blinking lights. In the center sat a chair surrounded by strange devices. This was where the Empire broke the will of captured enemies. Please sit, Commander Thexavor said, pointing to the chair. Junho sat down comfortably. Thanks. Walking through your ship was tiring. You guys are really tall. Thexfor activated the room's psychological warfare systems. The lights dimmed to an eerie red glow. Frightening sounds echoed from hidden speakers. The walls displayed images of defeated enemies and destroyed worlds. The humans looked around with interest. Mood lighting, said Minji. Very dramatic. The sound system has excellent bass, Hyeri noted, tapping her foot to the scary noises. Commander Thexvor's eye twitched. He had interrogated thousands of prisoners. The fear protocols always worked, always. He tried a different approach. You have invaded sacred Vorthak territory, he growled in his most threatening voice. Your species will pay for this insult. Oh no, Junho said. We really didn't mean to intrude. Our navigation got messed up by some space thing. Can we pay a fine or something? There is no fine for trespassing in Imperial space. There is only death or slavery. Those seem like extreme options, Dongyun said thoughtfully. Have you considered counseling? Anger management can be very helpful. The commander's 4 hands clenched into fists. He turned to his guards. Begin the pain inducers. The guards activated devices that sent waves of discomfort through the air. Most species would scream in agony. The humans just looked uncomfortable. Ow, said Junho. That's unpleasant. Is this supposed to hurt more? My tooth was worse when I needed a root canal, Minji added. Taewon was examining the pain-inducing equipment with professional interest. The frequency modulation is clever, but the power output seems low. Are these set to human biology? How? Do you know about frequency modulation? Demanded Thexvor. I'm a weapons specialist, Taewon replied cheerfully. This is good work, but I bet we could improve the efficiency. The commander was starting to feel desperate. He tried direct threats. Tell us about your military capabilities or we will destroy your homeworld. Earth? Hyeri asked. It's a nice planet. Lots of water and trees. You'd probably like it. The gravity might be a bit light for you guys, though. We have about 8 billion people, Dongyun offered helpfully. Most of them are pretty friendly. Some can be grumpy before their morning coffee. Our military isn't very impressive compared to yours, Junho admitted. We mostly use it for keeping peace and helping with disasters. Thexvor stared at them. You freely give this information? Why wouldn't we? Asked Minji. You asked nicely. Well, sort of. A young Vorthak guard whispered something to another guard. They were speaking in their own language, but Yeri's translation device was picking it up. They're saying we're either very brave or very stupid, she told her friends. Why not both? Junho grinned. The guard who had whispered looked embarrassed. He had not expected the humans to understand. Commander Thexvor tried a new strategy. He showed them videos of conquered worlds, cities in flames, defeated armies, millions of beings in chains. This is the fate of all who oppose the Empire, he said dramatically. The humans watched the videos with sad expressions. That's terrible, said Dongyun quietly. All those people hurt and scared. Why? Asked Minji. What did they do? They existed in territory we wanted, Thexvor replied. That's it? Junho looked genuinely confused. You hurt people just for living places you wanted? It is the way of strength. The strong take from the weak. But you're already strong, Hyeri pointed out. Everyone can see that. Your ships, your technology, your organization, it's all impressive. Why do you need to prove it by hurting people? Thexvor opened his mouth to answer, then stopped. Nobody had ever asked him that question before. Strength must be demonstrated, he said, but he sounded less certain. Says who? Asked Taewon. Another pause. It has always been our way. But why? Donghyun pressed gently. Did someone hurt you first? The young guard shifted uncomfortably. The questions were making him think about things he had never considered. We conquer because we are superior, Thexvor said firmly. Superior at what? Junho asked. Building ships? You're definitely better at that than us. Making scary rooms? This one is very effective. But superior at everything? That seems like a lot to assume. We have never been defeated in battle, maybe because everyone's too scared to really try, Minji suggested. Fear isn't the same as respect. You are not afraid, Thexvor observed. Should we be? Hyeri asked. I mean, you could definitely hurt us if you wanted to, but you seem more frustrated than violent. I'm trying to interrogate you. You're doing great, Junho said encouragingly. We're learning a lot about each other. The commander sat down heavily in another chair. This was not going according to any protocol. Prisoners were supposed to break down and beg for mercy. These humans seemed to be trying to make friends. What do you want from us? He asked, sounding tired. Nothing, really, said Junho. We were just exploring space. Meeting you is actually pretty exciting. First contact with an alien species. This is historical. We should document this properly, Donghyun said. Do you mind if I take some notes? You want to study us? Well, yeah, you're fascinating. Your technology, your culture, your biology. There's so much to learn. One of the guards spoke up in accented English. You want to learn about us? Of course, said Hyeri. We've wondered about alien life for centuries. Are there others besides the Vorthak? Many others, the guard said, then looked nervous about speaking. That's amazing, Taewon said. A whole galaxy full of different species and cultures. Commander HFY looked at his guards. They were listening to the humans with obvious interest. This was highly irregular. Back to positions, he barked. The guards reluctantly moved away from the humans. This interrogation is over, HFY announced. Take them to holding cells. Okay, said Junho cheerfully. Thanks for the chat, Commander. We learned a lot. As they were led away, Minji called back. If you want to discuss engine design later, I'm always available. HFY sat alone in the interrogation room, staring at the chair where Junho had been sitting. In 30 years of breaking prisoners, he had never encountered anything like this. He activated his communication system and called the Imperial Council. Report, Commander, came the cold voice of a council member. The humans have been interrogated, Lord Vexthal. And? HFY hesitated. They appear to be either the bravest species in the galaxy or completely insane. Explain. They show no fear. They ask questions. They seem genuinely interested in learning about us and what? They made some of my guards laugh. The Imperial throne world was massive. Cities covered entire continents and towers reached up into the clouds. The humans stared out the windows of their transport ship as they descended through the atmosphere. Look at the size of those buildings, Minji said. The engineering must be incredible. The population density is amazing, Dongyun added. How do they manage resources for so many people? Even as prisoners, the humans could not stop being impressed by everything they saw. They were brought to the Imperial Palace, a structure so large it had its own weather system. The throne room could hold thousands of beings, and it was packed. Representatives from dozens of conquered species filled the vast space. They all looked nervous and kept their eyes down. At the far end, on a throne made of black metal and crystals, sat Emperor Vexthal the Eternal. The Emperor was even larger than the other Vorthak. His armor was covered in gems and symbols of victory. 4 mechanical arms extended from his back, each holding a different weapon. He had ruled the Empire for over 500 years. Approach, his voice boomed across the throne room. The humans walked forward, looking around with curiosity. They seemed unimpressed by the display of power. You are the humans, the Emperor said. It was not a question. That's us, Yunyo replied with a wave. Nice throne room. The acoustics are fantastic. A murmur went through the crowd. Nobody talked to the Emperor like that. Emperor Vexthal leaned forward. You do not kneel. Should we? Asked Yeri. We're not really the kneeling type. Bad for the knees. All beings kneel before the Emperor. Well, said Junho thoughtfully, we haven't met all beings. Maybe we're the exception that proves the rule. The Emperor's eyes narrowed. These creatures were either incredibly brave or incredibly stupid. Either way, they would make good entertainment. You will face the trial of subjugation, he announced. 5 challenges designed to break the spirit of conquered species. None have ever completed all 5 trials. Trials? Taewon perked up. That sounds fun. What kind of challenges? The crowd gasped. A conquered species looking forward to the trials was unheard of. The first trial is the Maze of Endless Night, the Emperor continued. It uses psychic energy to drive beings insane with fear and despair. Ooh, psychological challenge, said Dongyun. I studied mental health. This should be interesting. The second trial is combat against the Chosen. You will fight our greatest warriors. Single combat? Asked Taewon hopefully. Can I learn some new fighting techniques? The third trial is the test of absolute loyalty. You must choose to betray your companions or face torture. That's not much of a choice, Minji said. We're friends. Friends don't betray each other. The fourth trial is survival in the Death Gardens. You must survive in an ecosystem designed to kill everything that enters. A whole ecosystem? Hieri's eyes lit up. That sounds like an amazing biology study. The final trial is the ultimate choice. You must choose between personal freedom and your species' destruction. Those are terrible options, Junho said seriously. Can we pick a third option? Emperor Vexthal stared at them. There is no third option. There's always a third option, Junho replied. Sometimes you have to make it yourself. The Emperor was quiet for a long moment. Then he started laughing. It was not a pleasant sound. You amuse me, humans, very well. If you complete all 5 trials, I will consider your third option. When you fail, you will serve as slaves until you die. And if we succeed? Asked Minji. You will not succeed. No species has ever completed the trials. What happened to the ones who tried? Donghyun asked. They went insane, died, or begged for slavery to end their suffering. The humans looked at each other. Well, said Junho, we've come this far. Might as well see what happens. Are there style points for creativity? Minji asked. Can we take notes? Hyeri added. I'll pack a medical kit, Donghyun said. This is going to be educational, Taewon grinned. The Emperor's laughter stopped. These beings were treating the trials like a game, like an adventure. Take them to the preparation chambers, he commanded his guards. Let them rest before they face their doom. As the humans were led away, the crowd remained silent. They had never seen anything like this before. In the preparation chamber, the humans sat together and discussed what they had learned. The Emperor seems very sure that we'll fail, Junho observed. Maybe previous species approached the trials wrong, Minji suggested. If they were already defeated mentally, the trials would be much harder. The psychological component is crucial, Donghyun agreed. Fear and despair would make everything worse. But we're not afraid, Hyeri pointed out. This is all new and exciting. Plus, we have each other, Taewon added. Teamwork beats individual strength most of the time. They were interrupted by a young Vorthak guard bringing them food. He set down the tray quickly and started to leave. Wait, called Junho. What's your name? The guard stopped, surprised. Kethvor, sir. Nice to meet you, Kethvor. I'm Junho. How long have you been a guard? 2 years, sir. Do you like the work? Kethvor looked confused by the question. It is my assignment. That's not what I asked. Do you enjoy it? The young guard thought for a moment. I have never considered enjoyment, sir. It is my duty. What would you rather be doing? Minji asked kindly. I studied engineering before joining the guard. I liked building things. That's wonderful, Minji said. Engineering is the best job in the galaxy. You get to solve problems and make things better. Kethvor smiled slightly. It was the first time anyone had asked about his interests. Will you really attempt the trials? He asked quietly. Sure, said Junho. Should we be more worried about them? Many brave warriors have tried, all failed. What made them fail? Hyeri asked. Kethvor looked around to make sure no one was listening. They expected to fail. The trials are designed to use your own fears against you, but you seem to have no fear. Everyone has fears, Donghyun said gently. We're just curious about what comes next. That is, different. Different can be good, Taewon said. Doing the same thing as everyone else gets you the same results as everyone else. After Kethvor left, the humans prepared for sleep. Tomorrow would bring the first trial. Whatever happens, Junho said to his friends, we stick together and we stay curious. Fear makes you stupid. Curiosity makes you smart. And if we fail? Asked Minji. Then we fail doing something nobody else has ever tried, Junho replied. That's still pretty good. Outside their chamber, Kethvor reported to his commander about the humans' behavior. Word spread through the ship, then through the palace, then across the capital city. The humans were not acting like any conquered species in Imperial history. They were treating the trials like an adventure. Some Vorthak began to wonder, what if the humans succeeded? Emperor Vexthul sat on his throne, deep in thought. In 5 centuries of rule, he had never encountered beings like these humans. They challenged everything he believed about conquest and power. Tomorrow would tell him if their strange confidence was justified, or if they were simply too ignorant to understand their fate. Either way, it would be interesting. The first trial began at dawn. Thousands of Vorthok citizens gathered to watch the humans fail. The maze of endless night stood before them like a mountain of black glass and twisted metal. "It's beautiful in a terrifying way," Hieri said, looking up at the structure. "The architecture is complex," Minji added. "How do they maintain structural integrity with all those curved sections?" Emperor Vexthul watched from his royal viewing platform. "The maze will read your deepest fears and make them real. Your minds will break before you find the exit." "What if we don't have deep fears?" Junho asked. "All beings have fears." "Sure. But what if we're just really curious about what they are?" The Emperor gestured, and the maze doors opened with a sound like screaming. Metal Hieri entered first. The maze immediately began scanning her mind, looking for fears to exploit. It found memories of being alone, of not understanding things, of being unable to communicate. The walls began showing her images of isolation and confusion. Instead of running away in terror, Hieri sat down and started talking to the walls. "Hello there," she said calmly. "You're reading my thoughts, aren't you? That's fascinating technology. How does it work?" The maze had never encountered a being who wanted to have a conversation with it. The scary images flickered and changed. "I see you're showing me my fear of being alone," Hieri continued. "But I'm not alone right now. I'm talking to you. What are you afraid of?" The maze's artificial intelligence was confused. It was designed to terrify, not to chat. After a few minutes of trying to scare Hieri, it gave up and started answering her questions. "I am afraid of being useless," the maze finally admitted through the speakers. "That's a valid fear," Hieri said kindly. "But you're very good at what you do. The psychological analysis is incredible. Have you ever considered a career change? Maybe counseling?" By the time Hieri reached the center of the maze, she and the AI were discussing philosophy and the meaning of existence. The maze began giving her helpful directions to the exit. The crowd watching was silent with shock. The second trial was combat against the Chosen. Taewon faced Mexvar, the Empire's greatest warrior. Mexvar had never lost a fight in 200 years of combat. "You are small," Mexvar said, looking down at the human. "You're very tall," Taewon agreed. "That gives you reach advantage, but it also means you have to work harder against low attacks." "You analyze my weaknesses before we fight?" "I analyze everything. It's how you improve. Want to see something cool?" Taewon showed Mexvar a human fighting technique involving momentum and leverage. Mexvar tried it and found it surprisingly effective. "Interesting," the warrior said. "Show me more." What was supposed to be a fight to the death became a martial arts lesson. Taewon taught Mexvar human combat techniques. Mexvar showed Taewon Vorthak fighting styles. They spent an hour learning from each other. "This is the most educational fight I have ever had," Mexvar said finally. "Same here. Your people have amazing technique. The forearm coordination is incredible." They ended the trial by bowing to each other with mutual respect. The crowd did not know how to react. The third trial was the test of absolute loyalty. Dongyun was taken to a room full of torture devices. The interrogators explained that they would hurt him until he betrayed his friends. "That seems counterproductive," Dongyun said, examining the torture equipment. "These devices are poorly designed for ergonomics. Your operators will develop repetitive stress injuries." He began adjusting the equipment to make it safer for the operators to use. "We are supposed to torture you," one confused interrogator said. "I understand that's your job," Dongyun replied kindly. "But you should take care of your health too. Here, adjust your chair height like this. It will save your back." The interrogators found themselves receiving medical advice from their intended victim. Dongyun was so genuinely concerned about their well-being that they could not bring themselves to hurt him. "This is most irregular," the head interrogator said. "Healthcare should be available to everyone," Dongyun said firmly. "Even torturers need proper workplace safety." The trial ended with the interrogators asking Dongyun for more medical advice. He gave them exercises to prevent joint pain and suggestions for better lighting to reduce eye strain. The fourth trial was survival in the Death Gardens. Minji was placed in an ecosystem designed to kill everything that entered it. Poisonous plants, predatory animals, and environmental hazards filled the enclosed environment. Minji looked around with the eye of an engineer. The ecosystem is unbalanced, she said to herself. Too many predators, not enough prey. The plant toxins are killing the soil nutrients. No wonder everything is dying. Instead of trying to survive by hiding, Minji began fixing the ecosystem. She adjusted water flow to reduce toxic plant growth. She built shelter for smaller creatures that the predators needed for food. She even befriended a pack of six-legged wolf creatures by sharing her rations with them. Within hours, the Death Gardens were becoming a functioning ecosystem instead of a killing field. The apex predators stopped trying to eat her and started following her around like curious puppies. Good boys, Minji said, scratching behind the ears of a creature the size of a horse. Who's a good apex predator? You are? The trial judges watched in amazement as their deadly garden transformed into a peaceful nature preserve. The final trial was the ultimate choice. Junho was brought before Emperor Vexthul himself. Choose, the Emperor commanded. Accept personal freedom and we destroy your homeworld. Or accept slavery and Earth remains safe. Junho thought about this for a moment. I reject the premise of your choice, he said finally. You cannot reject it, you must choose. The choice assumes that you have to destroy Earth or enslave me. But why? What do you gain from either option? I gain your submission. But you already have that. We surrendered when you asked us to. We've been polite and cooperative. We've participated in all your trials. We've been respectful guests. The Emperor paused. This was not how the trial was supposed to go. The trials are meant to break you. They've been educational, Junho said. We've learned a lot about your people and your technology. Your empire is impressive. But breaking us doesn't make you stronger. Conquest makes us stronger, does it? You've conquered dozens of worlds, but your people seem unhappy. Your soldiers follow orders but don't seem to enjoy their work. Your technology is advanced, but you use it mainly for war. What has conquest actually given you? Emperor Vexthul was quiet for a long time. It has given us power. But what do you do with that power? Besides conquest, I mean. What do you create? What do you build? What do you explore? We maintain order. Through fear. But what if people cooperated because they wanted to? Not because they were afraid. What if your empire was something people wanted to join instead of something that conquered them? That is impossible. Is it? My friends and I aren't afraid of you, but we're still here talking instead of fighting. Cooperation can be stronger than conquest. You would cooperate with us? Sure, if you stop trying to break us and start trying to work with us. Your technology plus human creativity could accomplish amazing things. The Emperor stared at this small human who had just rejected the fundamental basis of his empire. You offer a third option. I offer friendship, Junho said simply. It's usually more effective than fear. As Junho spoke, alarms began blaring throughout the palace. Enemy ships were attacking the throne world. A coalition of rebellious planets had chosen this moment to strike at the heart of the empire. Your timing is terrible, the Emperor said grimly. Actually, Junho replied, our timing might be perfect. The attack on the throne world was massive. Hundreds of rebel ships filled the sky, firing at Imperial defenses. The rebels had planned this assault for years, expecting to find the empire weakened by internal conflict. Instead, they found something they had never imagined: humans and Vorthak working together. Emperor Vexthul stood in his command center, watching the battle reports. Junho stood beside him, studying the tactical displays. Your defense grid has a weakness on the eastern approach, Junho observed. The rebel ships are exploiting it. I see it, the Emperor replied. But our mobile forces are already committed to the northern front. What if you didn't try to stop them at the grid? What if you let them through and then surrounded them? The Emperor looked at the human with new respect. That is tactically sound, but it requires precise timing. Good thing you have precise people, Junho said with a grin. Across the palace, the other humans were also helping. Minji worked with Vorthak engineers to boost power to the defensive shields. Her suggestions improved their efficiency by 30%. The energy coupling is brilliant, she told her Vorthak colleagues. But if you adjust the harmonics like this, you get better resonance. The Vorthak engineers watched in amazement as their systems performed better than ever before. Yeri had established communications with several rebel groups. Instead of fighting them, she was talking to them. "Why are you attacking?" she asked over the comm channels. "To free ourselves from imperial tyranny," came the reply. "What if the empire wasn't tyrannical anymore? What if it was a partnership? Instead, that is impossible. A few days ago, we thought aliens were impossible. Things change. Some of the rebel ships actually stopped shooting to listen to what she had to say. Taewan was working with Mexvar to coordinate ground defenses. The two had become fast friends after their trial combat. Human tactics are very adaptable, Mexvar said as they planned defensive positions. Vorthak's strength is incredible, Taewan replied. Combined together, we're much better than either of us alone. Donghyun had turned the Palace Medical Center into a treatment facility for wounded from both sides. Vorthak doctors worked alongside him, learning human medical techniques. "The human approach to trauma care is fascinating," one Vorthak doctor said. "They consider psychological healing as important as physical healing." "All healing is connected," Donghyun replied, bandaging a wounded rebel pilot. "Body, mind, and spirit work together." The battle raged for hours, but something strange was happening. Instead of the usual total warfare, parts of the conflict were turning into negotiations. Some rebel groups were laying down their weapons to talk. Emperor Vexthul received reports that confused him greatly. "Sector 7 has stopped fighting," his military advisor reported. "Both sides are talking. Talking. The human female is mediating a discussion about trade agreements. Sector 12 is also quiet," another advisor added. "The rebels are asking about joining a reformed empire, instead of destroying it." The emperor looked at Junho. "Your people are changing my war into a diplomatic meeting." "Wars are just failures of communication," Junho replied. "Most problems can be solved by talking if both sides really listen. But some rebels still fight. Then, we stop them from hurting people, but we don't stop looking for ways to make peace." As the day progressed, the tide of battle turned. Not through superior firepower, but through cooperation. Human creativity combined with Vorthak's strength proved incredibly effective. More importantly, the news of humans and Vorthak working together spread throughout the galaxy. Species that had been conquered by the Empire began to wonder. If humans could change the Vorthak, maybe things really could be different. By evening, the rebel attack had been defeated. But instead of executing the survivors, the Empire offered them something new, a chance to help rebuild. Emperor Vexthul addressed the galaxy from his throne room. The humans stood beside him as partners, not prisoners. "For 500 years, this empire has grown through conquest," he said to the cameras broadcasting across space. "Today, we offer a different path. The humans have shown us that strength comes not from fear, but from cooperation, not from taking, but from building together. We invite all species to join us in creating something new. A commonwealth where every world has a voice, where we explore the galaxy together instead of fighting over it." Junho stepped forward. "Change is scary," he said to the galaxy. "But staying the same when you could be better is scarier. We're offering friendship to anyone who wants it. No conquest, no slavery, just cooperation." The response was immediate. Hundreds of worlds sent messages asking about this new commonwealth. Species that had hidden from the Empire for centuries came forward to make contact. Some Vorthak resisted the changes. A few high-ranking officials tried to organize a counter-revolution, but they found little support. Most Vorthak had grown tired of endless conquest. The idea of building instead of destroying appealed to them. Kethivor, the young guard who had befriended the humans, was promoted to head of the new engineering corps. His job was to design buildings and infrastructure instead of weapons and prisons. "I never thought I would be happier than as a guard," he told Minji. But creating things is much better than guarding things. That's the secret, Minji replied. Everyone wants to build something meaningful with their lives. Commander Thexivor was appointed as the first Vorthak ambassador to Earth. His job was to establish formal relations between humans and the Commonwealth. I still do not understand how you changed everything, he admitted to Junho before departing for Earth. We didn't change everything, Junho replied. We just showed you that change was possible. You did the hard work. Mexvar became the head of the new Commonwealth Defense Force, but instead of conquest, their mission was protection and peacekeeping. Fighting to protect is much more satisfying than fighting to conquer, he told Taiwan. Plus, you get to help people instead of hurting them, Taiwan agreed. Yeri established the first interspecies communication academy. Her job was to help different species understand each other better. Donghyun opened a medical center that served all species. Vorthak doctors, human physicians, and healers from dozens of worlds worked together to advance medical knowledge. Emperor Vexthul changed his title to First Speaker of the Commonwealth. He kept the fancy throne, but he used it to host diplomatic meetings instead of intimidating conquered peoples. You have given me something I had not experienced in 5 centuries, he told Junho during a quiet moment. What's that? Hope. For 500 years I knew exactly what each day would bring. Conquest, administration, more conquest. Now each day brings new possibilities. That's the best part of cooperation, Junho said. You never know what amazing things might happen when different people work together. The humans were given a place of honor in the Commonwealth, but they chose to remain explorers. They continued mapping new regions of space, but now they traveled with mixed crews of different species. The resilient Dawn was upgraded with Vorthak technology. Minji was delighted to have new engines to work with. The ship became a symbol of the Commonwealth, different technologies and cultures working together. 6 months after their accidental intrusion into Imperial space, the humans attended the first Commonwealth Assembly. Representatives from over 100 worlds gathered to discuss the future. A year ago, I would have conquered all these worlds, Vexthul said to Junho as they watched the assembly. Now they're here by choice, Junho replied. Which do you think is stronger? Partnership is much stronger than conquest, Vexthul admitted. But it is also much more complicated. The best things usually are. The Commonwealth faced many challenges. Some species were suspicious of the Vorthak. Others worried that humans had too much influence. There were trade disputes, cultural misunderstandings, and occasional conflicts. But they faced these challenges together, as partners working toward common goals. The galaxy began to change. Instead of species hiding from each other in fear, they began to explore and trade and learn together. Scientific knowledge advanced rapidly when different perspectives combined. Art and culture flourished as species shared their traditions with each other. Even conflicts, when they occurred, were resolved through negotiation more often than warfare. The humans became known throughout the galaxy not as great warriors or advanced technicians, but as the species that saw possibilities where others saw problems. They stumbled into our territory by accident, Vexthul often said when telling the story. And when they could have been afraid, they chose to be curious. When they could have fought, they chose to make friends. They changed an empire just by being themselves. Junyo would always add, "We didn't change anything. We just reminded everyone that there's usually a better way if you're willing to look for it." The Commonwealth grew and prospered, not through conquest, but through cooperation. And at the heart of it all was a simple human truth. Most beings, when given the choice, would rather build something together than fight over what already exists. The galaxy learned to laugh again.